Join Angie Taylor, a 30-year veteran educator and co-founder of Valor Global Online and Valor Global Foundation, if you long to leave a legacy for your family and leave your mark on the world. This show is for you. This is the Way of Valor.
Hey, welcome to the Way of Valor. I'm your host, Angie Taylor. Hey guys, today we are talking about, hey, help, my kid absolutely hates school and I'm not sure what the right answer is. And it's making our home miserable every single night. Man, I know that scenario. I have had one of those kids. In fact, a lot of the way we designed the schools that we have started are completely because I had a child out of my three. I had a child that every night was painful. Every night we had arguments in our house over homework and arguments over getting stuff done. And so today we're going to give you some hopefully helpful suggestions. I'm going to give you 10 points that hopefully you can take home, implement in your home, and it will ease some of the stress in your home. So let's get going. Number one, get to the root cause of why they are hating school. The problem that I find often is when kids are saying they hate school, often there is something very specific about it that irritates them. For example, when a child knows that a teacher loves them and they have a great relationship with that teacher, it is amazing about it doesn't matter which subject they are in, that child will rise to the challenge that teacher, even if the teacher is really hard, that child will rise to the challenge. Often the relationship is key to the success of a child in school. So if they are going to school all day and they don't like any of their teachers, or they only have one teacher and it is frustrating, a lot of times they're going to be coming home saying, they're not teaching me, I don't get it, all of the things, when in reality it may be, I just don't feel like this teacher likes me or is willing to support me. So it's really important to ask questions to your child about why it is that they're actually hating school. What is it specifically? Asking questions like, what do you dislike about school? What part of the day is the hardest part of your day? If you could change anything about your school, what would you change? This may help identify for you the things that are truly at the root cause for your child of why they don't like school. The second thing that is often attributed to why kids hate school is their peer group. Maybe they have not connected with anybody in their school and they're feeling lonely and isolated. And so again, what we find is kids can not like their teachers or not like the subjects, but if they have good friends that they are connected to in the school, they often do just fine in school. So understanding the root cause, because sometimes what happens is parents will think, oh, my child hates school. This is a school dilemma. When in reality is your child may be struggling to make friendships, and they may need some help and coaching on friendships. They may need to be involved in some activities after school with those friends. You know, I know when my kids were little, we switched schools because of moves a number of times. And we had to help coach our kids on here's how you make friends. Oftentimes we would invite kids over to our house to help build those relationships for our kids. So when they went back to school, they had these peer relationships. But really understanding what is it that you hate about school is actually really important for your child, because there are many, and maybe it is, I love the teacher. I don't like the learning process. And sometimes it's engaging with the teacher saying, hey, what can we do here to help my child learn to love school? But really deep diving in, what is it about this that you hate? The second piece that I would say here is helping your child understand that, you know what, we do hard things and sometimes hard things suck. in life, we all work, we all have jobs that we do. There are some that we absolutely love, that we're passionate about. And then there are some parts of our jobs that, man, they're just hard. They're just hard, but knowing we can do hard things is part of the journey. So deep dive with your kid, find out what the root cause is. What is it specifically that they're hating? Because a lot of times as parents, when kids are hating school, we go into fix it mode or blame mode right away about why that is. And so really discovering what's the root cause. Is this something that we can adjust in the way our child is thinking about things? Is this something we can adjust in their relationships with things? I've had students come to me before and feel like, I hate this class. This teacher doesn't teach me anything. And then when I deep dive with the student, discover the student just feels like this teacher doesn't like them. I'll get on a call with both the student and the teacher and start talking out how the student is feeling. And often the situation gets resolved right there, because when the teacher recognizes, oh, there's some sensitivities here, and I have inadvertently communicated with the child that I don't like you, when in fact, I actually really like you. I want to challenge you. So keep those things in mind, finding root cause. Number 2, making the learning relevant. This is something that's been really important to me, even in the whole creation of Valor, is why does it matter? None of us want to show up to do things that feels like, in the grand scheme of things, time does not matter. We want our time and energy to matter, what we invest in. And our kids are exactly the same way. So helping your kid discover the relevance. If you as a parent are struggling with, I don't know the relevance of it, I think it's busy work, then go back and talk to the teacher and ask the teacher, hey, why does this matter? How will this help my kid in the future? Sometimes teachers need to be challenged in that way to help connect those dots for your child. And if the answer is yeah, I don't know either, it's in the curriculum, that is a wrong answer. And you may be considering, do I need to escalate? Do I need to consider a new learning environment for my child? The third thing is you may consider an alternative learning environment for your child. Every child is different. What they need is absolutely different. And so making sure that you have figured out what makes my child tick. One of my kids would have done very well in the online setting. One of my kids would not. One of my kids did very well in a traditional setting of sitting, following the rules, following the directions. She loved the traditional route of learning. And so understanding each one of your kids are different and they may need new solutions. Now is the time. You're in February. Now is a perfect time for you. If you're thinking we may need a shift, now is a great time to start exploring. But you first got to go back to number 1. What's the root cause of what? Maybe they just hate sitting all day. Maybe they're just incredibly bored. All of those things matter. We need to understand that there is an emotion that is attached to learning. And when our child is showing up every day, looking at the world through this lens of, I hate everything about it, we are actually effectively blocking the learning process. That your child's effectively blocking the learning process. So they genuinely could be showing up to school every day and wasting their time. So getting to the root cause of what you hate, is this a mindset that we can help shift in our child? Do we need our child just to have learning more relevant? Or 3, should we be considering a new learning environment? And there are so many options out there now for you. I love that there's micro schools popping up. Maybe your child does need less time in a seat all day long, in which case there are options that they can learn from home with teachers online and live classroom experiences and community experiences. We've designed Valor very much. That's like, but I would tell you, Valor is not a fit for every student too. So making sure that once you discover that root cause, considering alternative learning environments. And we're talking about it right now because right now is the time for you to be exploring different school settings. If you're thinking you want to shift, this is the time many schools are opening their enrollment for the fall. A lot of schools, especially if you're looking at private schools, they end up filling up fast. So making sure you're looking for that now, but understanding first what makes your kid tick. What are they curious? Do they do, some people have their kids in a classical approach to education, and it is a terrible fit for their child. And it's not that classical approach to education is bad or wrong. It just is not for every child. And so understanding how your child learns, what they need, what brings them joy, what helps them be curious, all really important for them. Number 4, a lot of times kids come home, they complain. Either parents don't acknowledge the complaint, or they are not having effective conversations with the school. And that's also problematic. Do not have your kid go and waste their time all day, every day in an environment that they absolutely hate. And you as a parent aren't helping them learn to advocate for themselves. That's the first thing. That's always my first recommendation is, hey, can you go ask your teacher? What can I do to do a better job in this class? What needs to happen here? Teaching our kids how to advocate for themselves or explore for themselves some ways to make their environment better is critical as a parent, because you are wanting to train your kid to be a problem solver, not a complainer whose mama fixes things. So it's really important that the first step is, what's the problem? Can you solve it? Can I coach you to some solutions here for self-advocation? And then it might be that it needs to escalate where you are recognizing, we have a trend. I'm going to sit in on this and advocate for my child and talk very specifically with the teacher. You may need to escalate beyond the teacher. One thing that is really critical, and this is number 5, is helping your child make sure they're connected to an adult. Who's their mentor? Who's their role model? Is there at least one person in the school that your child is looking up to, taking coaching and training from? As a parent, it's really important that we put our child in environments where there's an adult in that environment that they are taking their cues from, that they feel safe talking to, and they can get coaching and modeling to. They don't need every teacher to be great. In fact, that's not going to happen. Usually schools, ours included, have teachers of different skill sets because they attract and appeal to different students. As long as your child has at least one person, whether it's a coach, a teacher in that school, that they can point to and say, this is the person that I feel safe talking to. This is the person I feel safe getting advice from. It's probably a great fit for your child. Still, they're not going to love everything, every class. That's okay. You're just looking for, are they moving in a forward place? And do they have somebody that can coach into that, speak into their lives? Your child spends an exorbitant amount of hours in school all day, every day, making sure that there are people that you actually want that you want that person speaking into the life of your child is critical, because they will influence your child. They will influence your child's future as well. So making sure you agree, yes, this is who I want to be the role model for my child is really incredibly important. As a parent, number 6, sometimes our kids hate school because they hate the pressure and the focus on grades. It is really important, and I know I'm guilty of this. This one's hard, but when you're looking at a report card, there's 3 A's, a B, and a C. Don't immediately go right to the C and say, man, why'd you get a C? Make sure that you are saying, wow, it looks like you enjoyed some of these classes and some of these classes were more challenging. Let's talk about that. We're wanting to focus on growth, not grades. The truth is we understand a student who works very hard and gets a C can be learning more than a student who is not working hard, has natural gifting and abilities, not challenged, and is getting an A in that class. Grades can be super misleading for a parent as a point of, oh, this must mean my child is doing very well. I can tell you I had one of my kids she was not enrolled in one of our schools, and she was getting an A in the class the entire year. And I made the mistake as a parent thinking, great, my kid's doing great. No worries here. When at the end of the year, the teacher was saying, man, I don't think she understands this concept very well. Or I think she's struggling in this class. I think she needs to not go on to the next class, but do some more work, when she had gotten an A all year long in the class. Where I failed my child was I was not asking, hey, do you understand what you're learning? She had learned how to play the system. She had learned, and that doesn't mean she was cheating. It means she understood, here's what it takes to get an A. I will get an A. Not here's what it takes to learn. I need to do what it takes to learn. There is a distinct difference, and it is possible in a lot of schools for your child to learn how to play the system rather than learn education. So your focus as a parent needs to move from grades to growth, from grades to what are you learning, from grades to what are you curious about, what do you enjoy, why do you like this class? All right. Number 7. A lot of our kids just need more movement and play. Schools, especially if you're in a college prep school, again, I'm not bashing on classical approach. It fits a lot of kids. If your kid leans a little more traditional school, it fits them well. But what I can tell you is our kids need movement, they need play, they need curiosity, they need creativity. There's a lot of research on this. In fact, NASA just came out with a study where they had done the research on a kindergarten class. They discovered that 98% of the kids entering kindergarten were demonstrating levels of genius. How are they doing that? Through their creativity, through their thinking, out of the box thinking. By the time these same kids were in 5th and 6th grade, that number had dropped down below 10%. I can't remember exactly the number, but it was significantly, shockingly lower. And that's a lot of times because schools often don't reward play or creativity, instead reward following the rules and getting the A, which often does suck the life out of our kids, the creativity and individual genius out of our kids. And so it's really important that if your kid is in a more traditional type school, that they're not just coming home and doing homework all day, all night, every night. Your child gets childhood once. I feel so strongly that our kids need to have family time, need to have opportunities for being with their friends, opportunities where it's unstructured in their world. And we've moved to a society that so structures the life of our kids that when they're graduating and in their early 20s, they don't actually know what to do with themselves, because now all of a sudden somebody's not telling them what to do, when to do, and when to do it. And so it's really important that we incorporate movement and play. We know scripturally God says that it's important to embed seasons of rest within our work week. And that is very true in the lives of our kids, and making sure that they get some mental, emotional space. Creativity and curiosity actually live in the boredom spaces. And so that's really hard as a parent, because a lot of times we keep our kids so scheduled, so entertained, and so filled up with noise that they don't have time to experience that boredom in order to discover curiosity and free play. Enough said on that. Number 8, social connections. We touched on this at the top. If a kid is struggling to make friends at school, a lot of times that is going to be directly related to their peer group. Do they have good friends in the peer group? I have often found kids that they don't necessarily like the school, but they love their friends and they'll stay in the school because of their friends. And so figuring out what is your child experiencing in friendships, and are those the friendships that don't value friendship so highly that you don't ensure your child has the right kind of friends surrounding them? Are these friends, one of the questions I used to always ask my kids is, are these friends that if we were hanging out or their parents were hanging out, everybody would be okay with the conversations that are taking place? My kids at points would say, yeah, no, mom, like those aren't friends that everybody would be okay with the conversation. Let me tell you this. It didn't mean that we just automatically excommunicated them as friends, but it did mean, hey, great. Those are kids that can come over to our house and hang out with you, but we're not going to allow for you to be in environments that don't have a little bit more protection for you. Finding environments that, I can tell you, that's one thing. And again, this isn't a big sales pitch for Valor, but the culture of the kids in our school is really powerful. That we're discovering that we draw a community that really loves Jesus, and the kids really love Jesus. And so when your kids are around other peers like that, that's where the peer pressure goes. That's where the momentum is going. By the same token, if your kid is in an environment where kids are talking about suicide, drugs, all of the things, that all rubs off on your child. So your kid needs to have a good social network and community, but you really need to ask yourself, are these the friends that, am I okay? And I ask my kids this all the time. This was the second question I used to like to ask them. Are you okay if everybody believes the same thing about you to be true as they believe about your friend? Old adage says birds of a feather flock together. It's completely true. Guilty by association is a whole thing. So who your kids hang out with will rub off on their personality, on their core values, on the way they have relationship with God, have relationship with their parents. Do these kids like their parents? We have definitely been a part of communities where the kids actually hate the parents and they're very secretive. And then we've been part of communities where the kids have great relationships with their parents. And I can tell you the difference is really important and will be really important in the relationships in your home. If you are in a community where people are bagging on the teens saying, I have a teenager, you know what that means, or I can't wait till they're done being a teenager, you are in the wrong community. Because I am telling you, that is not true of all communities. I absolutely loved being a mom of teens, and my kids hung out with peers where their parents felt the same way. It all rubs off. So making sure you are working in that direction. All right. And the last thing is number 10, have your home be the safe place that your kid does get to come and be very honest about their experiences of the day, where they're not getting judged. And this was literally a struggle for me, where you're not coaching everything about it. Sometimes, you know what, we're all like that. Sometimes you're just like, man, I just had a bad day and I need to be able to say I had a bad day. I don't need anybody to fix it because I know tomorrow is going to be better. So how do you create safety for your kid to talk about their day, talk about school? Because sometimes that's all that's needed and tomorrow is better. So don't rush in to fix the problem. invite your child in of, hey, is there anything I can do? I'll definitely pray with you over that and leave it at that. I hope these little tips helped. It is always a good challenge when our kids, and they're not going to love school every day. You don't love your job every day. It's true for all of us. Some days are just down days, but if you're consistently hearing the same pattern of, I hate school, deep dive on it, figure out why that is, figure out, is this something I can coach my child to the hard thing, or is this something that we really need a change of environment? Those are two different solutions for you, but hopefully this has been helpful for you and you guys can start learning to say, hey, some things I love, some things I don't like, and that's okay because that's kind of the way the world works. Alrighty, guys. Hope you have a blessed day. If this was helpful for you, or you know somebody who has a kid that is struggling right now, send this out to them. And would you go on and give us a review? That helps our algorithms, gets the message out to other people. We hope you have a blessed day and your child thrives. It is not okay for your child to show up every day hating where they go to school. You don't want to show up every day hating life. Life is short. You only get one of them. Make the most of it. Blessings on your day.